actually met. Course, and
All
it's
right.
been quiet since.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call order the Lower South Board of Supervisors meeting for June 18, 2025. Ask everyone to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. I move this to our public comment agenda item. Anyone wishing to be recognized? Seeing no one. I'll take a motion to approve the work session minutes for May 31, 2025, and or June 3rd, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the end statement, make a motion to approve the May 21 and June 3rd, 2025.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those say nay. Motion carries. Public Works Director, Mr. Jones.
Good morning. Update on some projects, Bergie's Mill Road Bridge work continues on the abutments in the center pier. Seems like things are going slower than I would have expected. So I'm not sure they're gonna meet their target of the end of the year, but I'll try and reach out and get an update on the schedule, just for everyone's information. No, it's not. It's not helping anybody right now. Roberts Road Bridge, we did receive the DEP permit notification in the ENS plan, so that work is moving forward. Public Works and the Community Center projects and we've received preliminary cost estimates from Boyle Construction. At this point, in my opinion, before we make those public and have any real discussions, that we need to take a closer look at those just to make sure that what they're estimating is in line with our expectations, and see if there's opportunities that maybe we can shave some of the numbers down a little bit. So we have a meeting scheduled next Monday in the project team to kind of go over everything and just have a better understanding of what they're estimating, how they came up with their numbers, and see if there's some construction methods or different types of materials or different, just anything different that we would like to see that they're not anticipating that might give us an opportunity to save a few dollars. But we do have we have preliminary numbers that will be sufficient for our discussions with GMS Funding Solutions regarding grants. At this point, we're just looking at in order of magnitude type numbers for their needs to get a sense for, how they can help us with our goals. So that meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. Sidewalk projects, work continues on those. Main Street, we had a pre-con meeting last week, I believe it was, or week before, and so they're gonna. The notice to proceed was submitted, and they're going to start working on getting preliminary work with the utility companies to get those coordinated, and then hopefully start work sometime after the 4th holiday. Cape Seal work, we've been battling weather with that, and it got postponed again. They were scheduled to start at least a portion of their first day's work today, and that got pushed back until hopefully tomorrow they'll start on that and then finish up on Friday. So that is the tentative schedule as we sit right now, and subject to change. As part of our road improvement program and all the work that we've been doing over the past several years, Grace and I have been discussing how we can better represent the work that we've done and even future work that we're planning. So I asked Grace if there's a way that we could graphically represent what we've done. So she's come up with a kind of a GIS map that highlights the areas and the different types of work that we've done. So I will turn it over to Grace to discuss this.
So as you can see, everything here is broken out by year since 2019. So the blue is representing any Cape Seal projects, pink would be Nova Chip projects, and then the yellow is the hot mix overlay. the red is also state roads, so I can kind of, hide all of these, and you can see what has been done throughout the years, as well as, 2025 end of year projections. So I don't know, Doug, if you would like to speak to this a little bit, but I'll just kind of scroll through this so that we can see what has been done. And then this is something that we can continuously update in our database, as new work is done. And then, if we find it to be appropriate, this can be shared through our website as well for residents to see.
Yeah, at a minimum, the current year would be directly, because people do ask.
Yep.
Share with you their concerns, so.
It's also nice for people to see historically that we were making progress. If they don't see that their road's been done.
Right.
It's not for a lack of effort of having worked on other roads. And I wonder if it might be interesting too, because we do have that data. It makes me think of, because I tried to drive through Letter Rock last night to get ice cream, and I was delayed because PennDOT's paving up there. And would it be appropriate to also just maybe in different color, what roads PennDOT done in that same time period, give an overall picture of road conditions in the township that.
Yeah, we can try to pull that information, and I say, if nothing else, we can use this as historical information for planning purposes moving forward, and we can always, and also add like, a 5-year projection layer or a 3-year project, however far we're comfortable projecting out as to what roads will be done when. So I think it's useful information. It also gives you kind of a global sense of the progress that we've made over the last 10 years in, improving the roadway network. So.
And Doug, also, from a projection standpoint, obviously Cape Seal has a certain shelf life, and then we have to do something else.
Right.
What's, pictorially, it almost gives us, then what are we looking at doing, 5, 8, 10 years from now to address those that we Cape Seal 5, 8, 10 years prior, correct?
Right, yeah.
I think it's great. If there's a way, thank you too, yeah, if there's a way we can make a public feature of that, right now, I'm all for it. As Chris said, having historically, I know we recently were talking about our recent projects, and somebody did suddenly ask me, wow, you're not getting mine at the movies. And I said, well, we just did another area last year before, so you kind of updated, and I didn't have all the information in front of me, told me to reach out to ask, I didn't know if it did, but it's a great way for people to see that, so they can sure that we are affecting the game.
Yeah, and if there's areas that were specific, that haven't been done or aren't necessarily on the short-term plan, there's a reason that they aren't. We've talked in the past about, the pavement degradation curve and when we should approach and attack different roadways with different treatments. And, we try to not to fall into the worst first trap, because then you spend all your resources on one or 2 roads or one neighborhood when the rest of the system, is continually degraded. So you try to maintain the good roads in good condition. And then the ones we have 2 developments in particular. We have the Cheswick development and we have Hunter Crest that, are to the point where they're beyond the Cape Seal. So we're looking at them, mill and overlay. And those I'm trying to hold off as long as we can, to again, capture everything else that hasn't been done in 15 years, so that we can then devote our attention to those roads that will really take an entire liquid fuels budget year to complete. Yeah, so. But yeah, Grace did a great job with this. Just like I said, it gives you a real good sense of the coverage area and what we've done, and it hasn't been just isolated to certain areas. We've targeted, various neighborhoods and developments throughout the township and various roads. And it's, I think we've been pretty successful in our approach. So.
Nice job.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Just an update on PennDOT work. We talked about, Cross Road being resurfaced. So that's overnight work that PennDOT is doing. The milling and the base repairs were done last week, and they started overlay one night this week. I'm not sure exactly when, but a portion of Cross Road has been resurfaced. But they're still working on that, and they're fighting the rain just like everybody else. Some department activities, continue working on our signs and getting them up to current standards. We're catching up on some of the roads that were done, prior to our implementing the, doing all the replacements on the resurfaced roads. And we're also working on, as part of the bike lane project, we took the signage out of that contract just to minimize the dollar number, so we're working on installing those signs as well. Cape Seal work, we did a lot of prep work, inlet repairs, some pavement repairs. We replaced 120 lineal feet of 18-inch corrugated metal pipe on Branch Road that was deteriorating. A lot of tree and vegetation trimming just to make sure that the equipment can safely pass. We're also working on Yoder Road, in the area between East Woods and Flint Drive. We're widening there in front of the woods. There's always been this kind of sharp drop off in a swale, so as part of the bike lane project, we thought that, we would continue the shoulder to where it connects to the trail system in that open field, which goes to Franconia and also to Summerwin. So we're working on that, and we're also several years ago, we installed some drainage, subsurface drainage to correct sump pump discharges and icing conditions at Flint Drive at the intersection. So we're connecting that pipe, extending it down to where the discharge is in the open field. And then also going to create a paved swale there and the shoulder. Also as part of that, there's some significant repairs that almost a rebuild of the roadway. We've got real poor soils there. There's no real base underneath the roadway. It's if you don't notice it when you're driving 40 miles an hour through there, but if you slow down or if you walk it, you really see the failure in the wheel path. So we're going to be about 200 lineal feet of that road. We're basically going to rip it up and build it back up, and so that it's to acceptable standards and will be there for a long time to come. In order to do that, our preference would be to completely close the road, and for probably a 48-hour period. Challenges, we're going to be working from the center line over to the shoulder, and including the new shoulder to stone and pave that whole area, and to do it as efficiently as possible and as safely as possible. The ideal situation would be to do a hard closure right there at Eastwoods and just past Flint Drive, right where that last driveway is for the property owner there. Our tentative plan is to start that on next Tuesday. So at 7 a.m. Tuesday, we would close the road. It may be able to be done and opened in 2 days by the end of the day, Wednesday. But our plan is to give us Thursday just in case things don't go as well as we hope. And so that the road would be weather permitting and, all those things. It would be reopened on Thursday by 3 p.m.
Eastwards to Ruth, back around.
No, we're gonna try to, from Fretz Road to Yoder, Clemens to Ruth and vice versa.
Okay.
So that would be the detour route. We're gonna contract with a local sign company that does it. They will install all the signs, all the appropriate signs according to the PennDOT guidelines. So everything will be, will be as it should be for a road closure and for the posted detour.
So Ruth and Rex is going to be
Yoder and Fretz.
yeah, we're Yoder and Rex will be road closed, local traffic only.
Correct.
Okay.
And the same at Ruth and Yoder,
Yeah.
coming in the other direction. And then there will be, again, a road closed ahead at Sunset, another road closed ahead at Flint, and then the hard closure right at the work area.
Is there an opportunity to use the electronic sign in advance?
We're gonna put the message boards out today to notify everybody, and we'll have Grace, push everything out through the website and through social media so that everyone is aware.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah. Obviously, you fall through, but Summerwind, if they can't make a right, they're gonna naturally want to go straight into Summerwind, so that'll also be local, road closed, local traffic only. Is they're gonna end up in the wrong area of detour if they try to go through that.
yeah, and we're gonna post the detour sign there with pushing everybody, to Yoder. So we're hoping that, you know, I mean, if we have to put some barricades out or something that. We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
It's not planned for that. Hopefully that doesn't. Cause honestly, I think it's quicker just to go Yoder to Clemens to Ruth rather than going through the neighborhood.
Agreed.
People,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
people not following speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always that possibility, and you're always gonna get some that will continue through if they're coming on Yoder and just continue on Yoder. Then hit it at, you know, and cut through Eastwoods or cut through Sunset because they've gone too far. But, you know, we'll do the best we can, and we'll keep an eye on it and, adjust as necessary.
Jeez.
2 days, like 48 hours.
From 7 a.m. Tuesday till hopefully sooner, but, 3 p.m. Thursday. But it will be a 24-hour closure. It won't just be during working hours. So, yeah, we just think it's, you know, from an efficiency standpoint for safety, it's gonna be the best course of action. So if everybody's good with that, then that's how we'll proceed. Last thing I have is, just, you know, Stephanie and I were always talking traffic and traffic signals and try to make things more efficient. While the work was being done, base repairs were being done on Camp Wall, I had the occasion to come through the Letteract traffic signal in the morning, which is not my normal route, and saw that there were, you know, maybe some challenges that maybe we could address. I guess that signal was installed in 2020?
2019.
2019. So it's been some time since traffic has adjusted and, you know, the timing's even been looked at, so. In conversations with Stephanie, she has another idea that maybe we can use an existing funding source to look at that and possibly do some timing adjustments. So I will turn it over to Stephanie to talk about that.
All right. Good morning. So following that introduction, I'll say, I brought up that, if you recall last year with the MTF grant award that was, that we're using for the 113 shared use path design, when we rescoped for the amount that was awarded, there was a task in that, in that grant scope to essentially do the traffic analysis for the alternate route, 113, to look at the conditions, look at how we would treat the tie-in points, what the intersection operations would be, and essentially review and determine the need for that particular roadway. So as part of that grant agreement, there is a task which is attached in what I provided, to do the traffic analysis. So in order to essentially complete the grant obligation, the task 5 for that traffic analysis would need to be completed. And with that, when I presented the grant revised scope last year, the decision was to hold off on task 5. We were really looking at just the preliminary engineering phase for the trail at this point, which was part of the grant award. Going back to this question from Doug, I said what we should go back and look at that scope because there is work in the grant that should be done or could be done that would help address these questions. So in doing so, I went back and reviewed that scope of work. The one thing is that we were adjusting the 2022 MTM manual turning movement counts at several of the intersections as part of that grant scope. It's now been another year and we're getting close to the 3-year period of which PennDOT will question the validity of the 2022 counts. So in doing so, I think that we could move forward with the review or the task of the traffic analysis, but we would recommend that we would complete new counts so that we have updated information given the changes that have happened. I'll say even just normal traffic over the last 3 years. I will say on a side note, we've gotten a handful of questions on traffic volumes that were done not even 3 years ago. We've gotten some comments from PennDOT asking for new counts. So I don't think just adjusting the 22 counts at this point being a year later is likely going to be sufficient. So that being said, we would need to do new counts, which can't happen over the summertime, obviously, would need to happen in the fall. But essentially that would be adding 6 cameras and processing time to capture those volumes. Otherwise, the rest of that scope is sufficient, and we would be able to look at this particular intersection. Obviously, it's a big part of the study, to determine if anything needs to be done to the signal at this current time. The addition of those counts is $2,100. I would say that I'm asking for approval of that if it is needed. However, I think we could probably work with the grant funds and see how it all shakes out in the end. But to match the scope from a year ago to now, it would be essentially a $2,100 increase. There's other tasks in that grant scope that may be flexible as well. So I think that would be the recommended approach, so that we're using the most recent current data to assess the whole area and look at the traffic conditions in that whole area and satisfy the grant so that you're eligible to receive the money that was allotted for that particular task. The other option would be just do an account, doing the counts at the intersection and treating that intersection independently and determining if any adjustments are needed to the signal plan. I will say, if we do the study, we look at the new counts, and if a signal plan is necessary, a signal plan revision just for that location, then we would be looking at the 3,200 to go through, obviously updating the signal permit plan with PennDOT. But instead of treating it as an isolated area, I really thought that re-looking at the scope for the MTF grant and trying to use what's already been documented as a task to fund that might be a preferred option.
Do we know the paving schedule for the development that's occurring in Little Rock along Morris Road? The reason I ask is that road is in fairly difficult condition, and I think traffic is deliberately avoiding that approach. I know I avoid that approach. So my concern would be that when we're going to be making alternative house, that that road would be in some kind of condition that it's not turning away travel.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've been asking, CKS what the schedule is on that and trying to push the contractor to get that done. Cause yeah, it's very rough shape.
Especially if you're, for a vehicle, that's one thing. For a motorcycle.
A motorcycle.
Bicycle, forget it.
It's very difficult.
So anyway, so if you're gonna do manual turn moving cows, we should.
I agree. And I think we were talking that it wouldn't be till the fall until the counts were done, Stephanie.
Yeah,
Because of the
correct.
summer,
With school out, we can't do anything to capture, good information over the summertime anyway. So we could certainly look at, September, even October, depending on, the schedule for that, we could work that together.
How many cameras do we have up there? Is this one hooked up to Centrex as well at that intersection?
No, Letterac's not part of the adaptive system at this point, because there's no, the adaptive stops at Oak and 113. A different project would be ultimately seeking to connect Oak and 113 through Landis into Letterac as a future project, but there's not funding for that project yet. Grace is working on it. So I think my main message is that you have a funding source that's allotted to capture some of the, the analysis for the alternate route. Part of that would include this intersection. And in order to satisfy the grant scope that was approved for that funding source, that task is ultimately going to have to be done if you want to be reimbursed for that amount. And so this would be trying to use that scope and funding source to review this intersection.
Yeah, that makes the most sense, but I want to listen to folks if they've got aversions to that.
No, I don't know, it's a question, this lake is literally right before I came to our city, with the capacity, just out of curiosity, why was this one was? I don't shoot some of that, but be adapted to that style, but.
There's no fiber.
It's too remote
Okay.
from the
Too
system.
far away.
Yeah, we would have to run fiber all the way to the intersection of Oak Drive. And 113 to have it connected
Someday.
someday.
That'll be it's in the MTF application that's being submitted this summer. The challenge there is if you look, there's no poles along 113 between Oak all the way up, you know, where 113 makes the bend. So the pole line runs along Oak and then it turns up Maple and then down 113. So if we're attaching fiber to poles, that's the direction it would have to go because there is no poles between essentially Cheswick or thereabouts down to Oak Drive along the S curve in 113.
Obviously. There's a way to improve it, I think it should, 100%. I think if it ever comes down to moving poles or anything else, we should have some communication, obviously, the residents there, I know that there was concerns when I hopped on with that location, that, to some residents. Other than that, if there's a way to look at it, improve it, I'm for it.
Improve it with grant money. Well, yes,
Right.
That's much better way to do it.
And see what we do.
I mean, that intersection is by far our worst.
Challenge.
It is, well, and just the number of approaches makes it difficult. For it to be efficient, so if there's opportunities through timing or, you know, things of that nature that we can achieve more efficiency, because, you know, like I said, I came up Salfordville Road at rush hour in the morning and you sit for 2 or 3 cycles at a minimum, depending on volume.
So, in case it said they spend more time at that light on their bus than the rest of the bus trips. They come to me with that.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
Yeah, that's what you said. All right, so do we need to take action anyway, or?
That way?
What I can do is, I'll formalize, I'm gonna bring up the proposal from last year, which has this task in it. So I will send that over to Joe. I believe the first 3 tasks in that proposal is what was initialed last year. So I'll send you an updated version of that task and just, ask for that approval, so that we can move forward with that task.
Very good.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
One last thing that I forgot to mention, you know, we talked about the lifespan of the Cape Seal, and I don't know if anybody's looked at some of these roads. You know, Lucan Road and Tyson Road were done in 2019, so they're 6 years in. And, you know, they look great, they really do, so I see no reason why we can't get 12 or 14 years out of some of this work. And just, I'm sorry?
It will depend on and the type of, right?
It does, and you know, and then we've also seen Freeman School Road where you've got curves and you've got, you know, stopping movements and things like that where it hasn't held up as well. So I think there's opportunities to be more selective on the type of resurfacing that we're doing. So that road may have been better suited for a Nova chip rather than a Cape Seal. So, but just another point that, you know, through my connection with LTAP and PennDOT, PennDOT is looking to develop a specification for the Cape Seal. They currently do not have one. They have a specification for the chip seal and they have a specification for the slurries and the microsurfacing, but they don't have a combined Cape Seal specification. So PennDOT has chosen Lower Salford to be one of their research locations in developing this specification. So I'm working with the PennDOT research people on you know, assisting where we can to help that process along. That is all that I have.
I think that's one of the other benefits of having that display, and, you know, don't correct me, but I remember really the only complaint that I really heard about the Cape Ceiling is somebody who had concerns, because it takes time when you explain the whole process. That's why we have the QR codes, people can see it. When you first look at it, you know, the resident was concerned, what did you do to my road? This is, however, having this, you know, that's something that somebody can follow up on. I think next fest.
Yeah.
It looks great. It looks
You
great.
go back a year later after some of these development roads have been done, you might see a little bit of the scuffing where the, you know, the wheel turns are and that kind of stuff, but overall, they're in really good condition considering where we came from.
Initially just looked like it did, initially does not look like an improvement, but then it become red.
Absolutely. And you can barely tell whether it's hot mix or Cape Seal, you know, when you're driving these roads, so. It's been a great tool for us, it really has.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Moving right along.
Yes, sir. Update on our license plate reader 113 at 63. It was held up for months on contract language. That's been worked out, and we activated the Verizon account. We were asked to activate it for this week, so it could be any day that we're actively submitting data to the server. The transfer of our traffic truck. We have purchased the F-150, and that could be done also as always this week, right? Day to day. The old truck, we've gotten everything we needed, but left considerable equipment in it for use by Freedom Valley. So that is now in a status where it could be transferred. Corey's done some research. We're estimating the value to be 10 to 12,000. And I think, Joe, you were going to get some kind of something on letterhead that would specify that value, you know, and we'll reach out to Chief Haynes to make the transfer. We had one more request for consideration of brake retarders, resident of Lucan, mostly reporting the poultry trucks coming from Skipback going north on 113. One of the traffic officers reached out to that resident yesterday and did advise them that we have asked PennDOT to take a look at 113. So they're satisfied for now that it's being looked at.
Anything else? Any questions for? Hearing none, moving right along, building and zoning director, Mr. B.
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any zoning hearing board applications for July. We will be looking at several items at the planning commission meeting in June. We'll have the 10 Schoolhouse Road resubmission. That's the 30,000 square foot office building that's proposed. That's correct, shortly at the corner of Schoolhouse and Wamble. And then we'll have the 417 Main Street, which is Isabel's Kitchen. They're coming back in. They forgot to add a small building addition to the previous land development request that they had. So if you recall, they had 3 building additions. They were small, and they received approval, and they've been building since then. And they came back in and they said, oops, we forgot the boiler room addition, which is a small addition comparable in size to the other 3. And so now they have to go back through that process. And so they submitted for waiver of land development. It's currently being reviewed, and it will be in front of the planning commission for that. We are also going to be looking at the small projects threshold. We're starting to hone in on actual numbers for that. I prepared a memo. It's not 100% complete, but we looked at several municipalities in the area. Andy Freeman's put together, one of his coworkers put together a memo regarding the same about information that they found about thresholds. So what we call waiver of land development is actually more commonly called minor land development. So there are 2 thresholds that I think we're looking at. We're looking at the difference between a regular full land development and a minor land development. So the threshold between the two there, and then the threshold below that would be an exempt project that is just exempt from land development requirements, doesn't rise to the level of development. And so far, preliminary numbers on that is somewhere around 5,000 square feet of building addition would be the maximum for a minor land development. And then the exempt would be somewhere around half of that, maybe 2,500 square feet. And I'm looking at all of the projects that
Is that building and impervious?
building is impervious, yes, so examples in the area are a percentage, so around 25% building addition. And between 5,000 and 7,500 square feet of total area for the building addition. But as I went back and looked at all the previous waivers of land development that we went through that process, what you have is sometimes you have a small building addition that has less impact than a large building addition on a larger building. So it's a smaller percentage. And they're either treated the same or the relief is given to the larger building. And so we're looking into whether or not to not do a percentage of a building addition, but the total square footage of not only building, but impervious surface as a total package. So it doesn't matter how big your lot is or how big your existing building is, it's just how big is the building addition and how big is the parking expansion. That's a common element that we see sometimes with, for instance, Dreyfus came in several years ago with just conversion of garage space into office space, and then he added 2 or 3 parking spaces, had to go through waiver of land development. Very little additional impervious surface, and with these numbers, that would essentially be exempt. And would just go through building and zoning, and so they would still need to comply with stormwater management, still need to comply with grading, zoning, but it would just go through me and the building and zoning department and CKS. So we're gonna be looking at that.
And are these just additions or maybe standalone building walls?
Standalone buildings.
I think he's saying 5. It was on that last.
Yes. Hatfield Township uses 7,500 maximum square foot building addition, 25% max. So
I think that's actually different to Dave's question. I might go with Hatfield's definition, which is building addition. Yeah, if there's already, I mean, if someone was proposing a vacant piece of ground with a 5,000 square foot building, yeah, that would be land development. That would be is it brand new? Because we have all the other aspects to look at, access, new parking, they will have. Whereas an existing building, for instance, is Ellen's Kitchen, is putting a couple hundred square foot boiler room on. All the other infrastructure is there, it's not affecting traffic flow, it's not affecting other things in that area. So just, I think you should be careful on the language of, is it an addition, is it brand new, or is it, I mean, it could be an accessory structure to an existing facility also. Yes, like a little garage versus a brand new primary structure.
You have a vacant lot, and so there's 5,000 square foot building stand out there,
Right.
we have no say in it. You know,
So just, yeah.
so we just repeat that.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. I want to make sure that we look at, like you said, like the accessory building.
Right,
Would of course be,
Right.
typically be a standalone building.
right,
As for instance, the Southford Mennonite Pavilion,
correct.
that was a standalone.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's just the principle, yeah, that's the primary, exactly, that's what I call that.
Okay.
All right, we'll see, great. Sounds good.
And other than, one more thing for the board of supervisors. So you'll see Southford Mennonite for the conditional use hearing. And with.
Yeah, I put that down as well, but any feedback on that?
What happens?
He just forgot. He felt really bad. He actually contacted me before the end of our meeting. And he apologized. It just slipped through the cracks.
Didn't make it to the calendar.
Right, so, but we're in touch So you should be here. Also, the waiver of land development for the pavilion would be the same night, but I was already anticipated the in July as it was. That's all I have.
Very good. Any questions for, Mike?
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks, Mike. Moving right along. Township manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the manager's report is appointment of township manager as CAO of township pension plans. Our pension managers have asked that we have something in writing, either a resolution or a motion in minutes, designating myself as the CAO. I've been acting in that capacity for last years. But we could not find any documentation to that, so,
And you have to make a motion to appoint, yes, chief administrative officer and.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
yeah, the
Is
next
that,
item,
Joe, just so we have it covered, is that for both the police and the non-uniform, is that covered with the motion, was it?
for both the police and non-uniform,
All under the township
and the, non-uniform defined contribution. The next item is the review of the updated open space plan map. As part of our future open space acquisition processes, an update of the map is being looked at. Grace has been working on this for the past few weeks. Made some additions and corrections to the old map. There were some items missing from the old map that should have been on it, but were not. Also putting on some potential acquisitions, and so the thought was to come to you, see if there was any additions, any thoughts on properties that we should be, what areas we should be targeting for future acquisition. And then this will go to the planning commission for their review recommendation at the June meeting, and then it'll come back to you in July with some other documentation that will need to be approved for your approval. She'll take in July. So, I was gonna hand it over to Grace and
Yeah,
put it up on the
sure.
screen so everyone can see it.
Well, I'm very familiar with the map room now. So, like Joe said, this map represents the progress that has been made since the last open space plan, which was in 2006. But I'll just kind of walk through that new key to the bottom right, just so it makes sense to everyone. But the purple parcels are areas that were acquired before the 2006 plan, but just, never made it onto the map. The orange parcels were things that we noted in the 2006 plan that we would like to acquire, and we did. The blue parcels seems to not be on our radar in the 2006 plan, but we've since acquired. And as Joe mentioned, future potential acquisitions would be listed in red. So right, if there's any additional areas, parcels that we would be looking to acquire in the future, that can make it on this map as well. And then eventually all of these new colors would be integrated into the original key, so it matches the rest of the map. But that would be all I have.
One property comes to mind. Craftsmanship, protection properties in the future, we're looking for that as well.
The one adjacent to the community center?
Yes, not to be wrong, one the other one.
That has a structure on it.
Yeah, it's considered.
Question, and I know Holland and I maybe talked about this too. I think it would make sense, and I don't know if that's something the county doesn't or does encourage. Through a lot of development that we've had over the last, 20 years, there's a lot of preserved ground through the community associations. There's association open space that's equally protected as any open space we own. But rather than us taking it, just been maintained by homeowners associations. I'm wondering if it makes sense to create another color code and identify that, because I think that paints an even more interesting picture of the preservation efforts and how ground has been developed.
Right.
And so that we could do that. Okay. The other, I'd ask Grace if it's possible, at the bottom of each of the new color codes, do we do a total? So that way we can get the increase of the, we have 1,640 acres of preserved ground on the other chart. Then we can add those others in just to give a picture of the total on there. And I think just for, full disclosure for those who might be watching it, who didn't see the map and whatnot, the additional acquisitions that are identified on here would be the Olive Block property off of 63 Florida Road and Stover Road. 1 acre property adjacent to the community center is the Hoover property, and 12 acres that's adjacent to the LCBC church that is part of their property, but is not needed as part of the church property. Grace had a couple little spots I found that I'll give to you, but I think particularly number 12, just so I'm clear on that, the bottom middle of the plan, that's identified as ag security, but that's actually, we got as part of the Letter Rock Golf Course, so that's owned by the township as well. Yeah.
There's that piece of property. I don't think it got sold recently, it was all for sale, but I thought it was in Coderwood. Why, Wolf Leaf Logo, it has gas line running through.
Yeah, that's not for sure.
It's not, as I say, so it hasn't been sold.
It did sell something else.
Okay.
It's pretty undeveloped. It's
But
not clear back and the gas lines through the middle of it, but yeah, I don't know for how far do we want to get, do we want to identify for, is that's a beautiful piece of ground adjacent to the Evansburg Park.
Right. Just
Yeah, no, like that.
I think it's great to have this update, people see, and, obviously we see that we're looking at potentially acquiring 70 acres. I do want to say I appreciate all the hard work, all the colleagues that we've had discussions on making that something that we could do. I appreciate everybody's work. So,
There any other open space?
No, I do agree with you, the homeowners association open space will paint another picture here as well, so.
Right.
There may be additional connections, but after that's painted, we might start.
Yeah, even though we don't control it, we have conversation, but we even have trails through some, we have public trails through a lot of that, yeah.
and we were just talking about Summerwood, and how
Right.
much they have that they could just let go.
And we have public-
mention,
and we have public trails through there, yeah.
Since we mentioned that discussion, I've noticed so much more where same thing, I'm like, that's all preserved.
And, just recollection, the Drew Lewis lots that were all over there. I know there was subdivided out, wasn't some of that preserved?
Like the White's Farm in that area?
Yeah. Up off of, Letter Rock Road and whatnot, like the primary, I know they subdivided the large tracts, but I'm not sure they're able to be further subdivided.
They're not, they preserved at 10 acres, when I was on. But I don't think there was any.
There was no preservation, the minimum lot size was what?
BBS lot.
Got it. Okay,
Brick mass for just a big chunk.
yeah. I didn't know if they were prohibited from any further subdivision per any agreements that they had done. Okay. Okay. Very good, good job. Great, so this goes to our planning commission and then to the county planning. And the park board.
Is this on the website, can I upload it? It's something like that too.
This is not yet available on the website, but spending the progress.
Thank you.
Once it's approved,
Right.
Yeah.
that's all I have on the manager's report. I do have the need for a brief perspective. For a matter of Christmas, without the amendment.
I can move that. And one thing, Mr. Chairman. Sure. As I mentioned, some of you all have been discussing adding in additional spots in the implementation committee. But one thing we noticed at our last meeting is what was the wording, Joe? Who serves on the committee? The original intent was to keep it similar to the park board. We did talk about that with the additional associate members, but the idea might be that, talking to you guys about the board, I'd get your thoughts, whether to keep it as similar to the park boards as possible for the amount of members. And we would still have the 3 associate members, but before we send that to Andy to kind of make sure we get it geared towards that area, I just want to know if there's any comments on them or if it's kind of still in agreement. And make sure the language goes. Another addition is unfortunately, one of our members has to step down, this, Jessica there, and, we do have a person who goes each time, so we need to be associated to that, that's Mr. Rob Carlson. So I'd like to make a motion to elect Mr. Rob Carlson to fill the vacancy of education.
Could I suggest that it was not advertised on an agenda, do we have to wait until it's on an agenda, or do we need to amend the agenda?
It probably should be on the agenda.
Let's
go.
go.
We can do it.
We can do it in
Yeah,
July.
perfect, yeah, but, as far as everyone's okay with that, that's what we said. That's good. And hopefully, then hopefully if Andy gets the verbiage in, we can get that together and John's still super interested to see if we have any members interested in becoming associate members as well. Thank you. Additionally, I did have another question as well, Joe, just any updates as well on the youth, junior supervisors? How that's coming along, if that's something that.
We're looking to, put together, resolution codifying basically the program as outlined, the, South Middleville Township. And then we put that before the board, probably July or August. So we won't be ready for, the
whole school year, as far as you get that for the school year.
Yeah.
Great. Nothing else?
Take a motion to adjourn?
So maybe you said.
Moving to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Motion carries.
Have a good day. Thanks, everybody.